So in the last video, we talked about the development of your psyche, so how you came to be, and we also talked about what your blocks are to higher self. And in this video, I used a beach scene analogy, and I said that our survival intelligence is representative of the lifeguard who waves in our internal surfers that are out in the water, tells us when we are in a threatening position when it comes to resourcing our needs or when we're safe. And then we have the pro surfer, who's your higher self, who is resourced to not only get our survival needs met through guiding us to how to stand up on a wave and to ride it to safety, but also has the intelligent information and is capable of aligning us with our most creative or our ecstasy needs in life. And so teaching us how to not only survive the waves of life, but also how to carve beautiful shapes and designs. In essence, your higher self helps you to co-create with life. In the last video, we also talked about our blocks to higher self, how we come to distrust the surfer and rely almost exclusively on the information given by our autonomic nervous system versus our higher self and the more creative intelligence that's available to us. So in this video, we're going to talk about a concept called interoception, which really means an awareness of your internal sensations. So when we really learn how to flex this muscle and to cultivate interoception, what happens is we're able to get out ahead of our fall reactions to life, or those behaviors and mindsets that we developed in order to cope with the threat of an unmet need. And as I said earlier, these are the behaviors and the mindsets that really keep us locked into survival intelligence and shut out our higher self-intelligence. All right, so for those of you who don't know, I'm a Jersey girl. And in New Jersey, we have this science learning center called Liberty Science Center. And one of the most famous exhibits, it's been around since I was a kid, is called the Touch Tunnel. And what it is an exhibit where people learn about exteroception, not interoception, which is exteroception is an awareness of your physical senses. What I was just talking about, interoception, is an awareness of your internal senses. So in this touch tunnel, people go in and you can't see anything. You're on your hands and knees, you're crawling through it, and you have to sort of be guided by the wall, right? You have to put your hand on the wall and allow it to sort of follow the sort of the curves of this tunnel until you get out. Now, in life, right? When we become afraid and we divert to our chasing and bracing behaviors to life, or our fall reactions, these defense mechanisms that we've developed to cope with the threat of an unmet need or pain in our lives, what happens is it can be really easy to freeze, right? To freeze in the touch tunnel, or to push by someone who's in front of you, right? And hurt someone while you're trying to get to safety or get the need met, to get out of this feeling that you're feeling in the moment. So I want you to think about interoception. We want to develop an awareness of these sensations that are going on internally. And instead of, chasing or bracing, freezing in moments where we feel uneasy, or, chasing greener pastures and potentially hurting people in the process, right? What we want to be able to do is to take a pause and to lean into these sensations. In future videos, I'll talk to you about embracing these sensations, but for now, to identify them and to take a pause before we default into our chasing and bracing behaviors to life, which keep us locked into survival intelligence, and again, shut the door to higher self-intelligence and feedback, which is the highest source of feedback we can possibly ascribe to, and who contains the resources and the information available to help us meet both survival and ecstasy needs. So the same way that we would feel through this touch tunnel, we want to feel into our inner world. So to keep interoception kind of simple, I'll usually break it up into 3 categories. So we have our internal sensations that feel in tune. This means you feel a sense of calm alertness, you feel grounded, you feel at ease, you might feel in a state of flow. The cadence of your thoughts are very predictable, right? I would say also you feel a minimal amount of tension in the body. So this would be okay, you're in tune. What your internal lifeguard is communicating to you in this moment is that your needs are met. When you are in either sharp or flat mode, which are the next 2 categories, what your lifeguard is communicating to you is that there is a threat to an unmet need. So in either of these 2 categories that I'm about to present now, when we are in these modes, we are the most vulnerable to our fall reactions to life, to defaulting to our defense mechanisms. Okay, because what we sense without necessarily perception, sometimes this is like a knee-jerk reaction, is that we are on the precipice of not getting a need met. So some flat descriptors, you might think like, okay, like I feel muted right now. I feel sort of lethargic. I feel disconnected, maybe spacey. And sharp, you might feel jittery. You might feel this sort of like unbridled high, which is very different from a grounded sense of joy. Like joy, I think of as a grounded high. In what I'm talking about right now, this jittery high, it's an unanchored high, right? That would be a sharp descriptor. Maybe your thoughts feel pressured, okay? Maybe you feel a sense of agitation in your body, or your muscles are constricting and you notice that. These are some of the descriptors that you might use for sharp and flat sensations in the body. So I'm going to give you an example that I think is really common right now with social media being what it is, and dating culture being what it is. So, okay, I'm going to give you an example of how this plays out where we default to these sort of survival responses to life versus emotionally regulating, so embracing sensations, which again, that's going to be the subject of another set of videos, and welcoming in higher self to resource us and to give us insights as far as like what is our best course of action to get our needs met. So let's say you really like someone and you text them, and this could be like you like a romantic interest. It could also be a friend, right? But for the sake of this, we'll say it's a romantic interest, and you text someone and they don't respond to you. It's been like a few hours, they haven't responded to you. So we see this a lot now, right? Like what do people do? They will post a thirst trap online, right? Or maybe they'll seek validation in their internal environment from, a third party. But in this case, what's happening is we are defaulting to a reaction. We're defaulting to essentially a chasing behavior in order to get a need met, right? Like if I post this thirst trap, she'll text me back. Or if I get validation from this person right here and now, I'll feel better about this other person not wanting me. So if we go back to Lisa Miller's Awakened Brain, if we know that our questing awareness, which is really the hub for higher self, is this perceptual frame is created through toggling back and forth between our achieving awareness, trying to get our needs met through control, right? And focus, and our awakened awareness, which is being present in the here and now, which requires our emotional regulation to have a pulse on the present moment. What happens when we default to our control tactics, right, to get our needs met, when we default to chasing, embracing behaviors, our trauma responses, our defense mechanisms, is that we literally slam the door on awakening awareness. We slam the door also on higher self in those moments, right? So that's really, over time, what happens is we become addicted to these tactics in order to get our needs met, and we become less confident in higher self to resource us with our needs. And again, higher self is resourced to help us not only to accomplish our survival needs, right? Our needs for connection, which is one of our survival needs, but also to resource us with our creative needs, our higher level needs. So when we default to these behaviors, when we allow our internal sensations to cue up our defense mechanisms, we erode our trust in our higher self. We erode trust that someone is coming, that there is a source, a presence, an information available to us that will resource us with our needs if we allow ourselves to stay and have a pulse on this moment, and we don't fully commit ourselves to that achieving awareness in that moment and to these defensive and offensive postures. So I want to add that not only do we erode our confidence in our higher self over time, but because our survival intelligence is not resourced to get our ecstasy needs met, what also happens over time is that we keep having the same issues over and over again because we're deferring to this intelligence source that is finite and limited. So for example, your binge eating behaviors, it keeps creating the same stuck issues that you have or the same body images that you have. Your sexual validation seeking or your attention seeking behavior creates the same outcomes. Maybe you deal with a lot of like trust issues in your relationship. So these chasing and embracing behaviors to life keep creating more of the same. the things that once helped us to survive childhood now have outlived their helpfulness and are limiting us in our creative capacity. So what I would love for you to start to do is I'm gonna have a post of our chasing and bracing or fall reactions. And, maybe like you're a perfectionist and you notice that you have these sharp sort of inner world sensations when you're on the precipice of needing to do more, right? Or needing to fix something. Or maybe you have some addictive tendencies and you notice that you're flat sort of descriptors, like when you feel muted or when you feel disconnected, you are on the brink of defaulting to some of your addictive behaviors. So we all have fall reactions. What I would love for you to do is to be able to identify some of yours. And then over the next few weeks, and again, this takes time. It can take time if you're not used to feeling around in your inner world, to take periodic pauses, to tune into what does my inner world feel like? Because the likelihood is that for most people, these sensations that we feel that are arriving from our nervous system they sort of build like waves, right? So if we can catch ourselves in the early subtle stages where a wave is starting to build, we still have opportunity to position ourselves to ride it versus feeling like we default to these reactions because the wave has already reached a point, and now we're just reacting to it. Okay, so this has honestly been one of the most supportive things I've ever committed myself to, is the practice of developing interoception, taking periodic breaks throughout the day to tune in to what's going on inside of me. What story is my body telling me? What theme is about to unfold? Is it a theme of met need or unmet need? Right? So taking the time to really connect the two. And if there are certain defense mechanisms that you really want to be more aware of and you want more freedom around and you would like more higher self assistance in this area of your life, it really benefits you to start tracking these sensations. Okay. And it can be a gentle check-in. You don't need to be like in a state of meditation for like an hour in order to do this. You can just do periodic check-ins throughout the day and notice when you start feeling flat or sharp. And like I said, in coming videos, I'll talk to you more about like how do we embrace the really difficult sensations, because this is going to be huge when it comes to you feeling more empowered and you developing a greater sense of trust in your higher self. So I hope that these videos were supportive to you. I look forward to the next series of videos. And if you want, I would love to hear like how you're doing with tracking your sensations. And if you're noticing whether you run more sharp or flat, and if you feel like it, commenting below. All right. Have a great week, everybody.